You and I are in summertime, but we're still doing stuff, right? Like, so that's kind of the motivation of this entire series in the summertime, being kicked off by Robert Peppo and some other amazing guests. But today we're unpacking Cindy Midget. But what's happening? We were just talking about like your skydiving right now. So
I'm actually thinking that the reason this series came about is because my summers are now my on time. Like
yeah.
it's peak skydiving season. So maybe like subconsciously my brain was like, well, I turn it up to 10 in the summers now because that's like the best time. Most people think about skydiving when it's warm and sunny
Hmm.
um and pleasant outside. I do jump all year round.
Hmm.
It's more challenging in the wintertime, but the main season is the summer season, which Robert Peppo's is as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so maybe that's why this summer is we're like, go hard, pursue your passion.
So people are like, "You guys are crazy. You're talking about teaching in the summer and stuff." But I will tell you though, that's interesting though, because I didn't even think about that is, your profession, Robert's profession, there's a lot of professions that just ramp it up in the summer. And I think we miss those opportunities like Cindy does to connect with outside resources because, hey, they're in their heyday right now. Whether we want to connect with them now or plan to connect with them when they're in their maybe down time. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So there's a lot to unpack with Cindy Midget, talking about, oh my gosh, all this, the amazing, like, remaking pathways was the biggest thing that I took from that. So I'm just going to jump out with a first thought, I guess, not a final thought, but like remaking pathways for kids. When she said that, that just really was innovative to me because usually it's like, okay, you're going to take this personality test and bingo, these are the two or three paths that you're going to take, and that's it. Right. And that's just a personality test. That's not experience. So, yeah, shoot, what did you take from that?
I mean, the starting off, I've never met someone who labeled themselves as like I wasn't a top kid, I wasn't a bottom kid, I was a middle kid. But I actually, when I found my passion, I wanted to be at the top of the top of the top.
Hmm.
I mean, I thought that was so interesting because my dad always had this, when I got into teaching, my dad always had this phrase of teach to the middle. And I really held that really close when I was teaching because he found, and this is, I know, backed by research. I'd have to like pull it up, but you get the most gains. The top kids are going to excel no matter what.
Hmm.
And the kids that are just, it's maybe for whatever reason just isn't the right class at the right time. They're going through something, etc. They're struggling,
Hmm.
but you can make the most gains in the middle. And I feel like Cindy is like the epitome of that, right?
Hmm.
And I also think about the opportunities that were maybe missed with Cindy in school, myself in school, by like the lack of CTE opportunities or the labeling, the marketing of that, because CTE was a thing when I was in high school, but it was for the quote unquote bad kids. Whatever. I mean, like they weren't necessarily good at school. And so they were pushed into like the cordon bleu, like go be a chef or go be an auto mechanic, the hard trades. And then there weren't as many of the other types that she mentioned. And so much so, right? Like as I said in last week's episode, I didn't even know an engineer was a career path that like I could take, right? Like, and I remember taking like the personality test and being like, oh, you're really good at science, you're really good at math, so you should go be a doctor, you should go be a dentist, you should go be a nurse. Like that's what was pitched. And there wasn't like any real experience. And it was actually like when I went and experienced dentistry and was in the office in college,
Hmm.
my junior year is when I was like, oh no, this is not for me. There were other reasons why it wasn't for me. But I probably could have tinkered and figured that out a lot sooner.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, there's so much to pull from that. I think so you and I had the opportunity and the means to actually go that route, right? Like to find that out at college.
Yep.
And not that everybody can afford that. So I think the one of the things I wanted to kind of reflect on after listening and into our conversation and having that conversation with Cindy is the inclusiveness, right? Like um, let's just say somebody doesn't have the means to go to college or is struggling at home, even if they're in the middle or even in the the tough part of that bell curve, and we give these experiences. And I'm going to get crazy here. Not only in high school, I'm talking like middle school and even elementary school, where we start to connect those core four with reality, right? Like, I keep going back to one of my neighbors, like his conversation with a Delta pilot when he was 12 years old. And lo and behold, he's flying commercial right now, right? So, like, I think like there's an inclusivity here. So if we want people who are struggling, or the data will show that this student isn't going to do the best because of other outside factors. Well, what if we can bring those experiences into the classroom? I think we can. And I think that's kind of where my mind went after we got done talking with Cindy. Um, you're right. Like really, these experiences for students, can you imagine like if I had, I don't know if I wanted to go blowtorch in middle school, but if I did and was able to twist something and understand the math of behind that twist. I mean, I remember shop class, and I know this is stereotypical CTE, but shop class in middle school where I still remember the parts of an inch, right? Because we had to use it. But I also remember like cooking, but wouldn't it be something if they brought an engineer in and talked math? You see it more and more, like the bridges being built by the sticks and things like that, but take me somewhere, right? Get me
Right.
into like a place where I can conversate with somebody who's doing SEO data and telling me why when I search on Google or when I'm playing a game at home, this advertisement pops up like when I'm 10. Now, I mean, now you're starting to like, I think you're going to start connecting with people, and those skill sets are amazing. So,
I mean, she had me when she was like, you you're gonna leave high school with skills that can pay you, that marketable skills. We've talked about durable skills on the podcast before, but I was thinking, I was even taking it a step further. What if, even if you know that the being a dental hygienist or a dental assistant or any CTE route isn't for you for the long term, what if it's even thinking about like, you can graduate high school, you're gonna be marketable for a job, entry level job in whatever route you want to play in, and you could then go to school while you're getting paid. I mean, so many people do a non-traditional route these days,
mhm.
and we're seeing it more and more. So why not just take it to another level, like market it that way? Like, you don't know what you want to do. So here's some skills that'll at least get you a job that's going to pay you more than minimum wage. It's going to develop you in a profession of some kind, right? And you take the pressure off. I feel like, of like, you have to decide, because if you don't decide, then you don't make money. Now you're in debt because you're in college. It's like this weird roller coaster ride that gets pitched to students. And like, I feel like colleges would benefit from this kind of like bridge, and or like supporting CTE experiences, because it probably in the short term won't get them more people in their buildings, but in the long term it will, because
Mhm.
students would then have the time to think about, what am I good at? What do I want to pursue? And then they'd be all in the college experience for what they ended up deciding, which is going to make graduation rates better. It's going to make the college like overall experience better. It's different.
Mhm.
Potentially you're going to have an older crew, but You're going to have people who are in it not just for frivolity or to find themselves. They've already, done that,
Hmm.
or they have more sense. I don't know. I just was like, let's just take it to another level than what even Cindy's marketing it as.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about that college thing as well, what you're mentioning, because instead of 1 out of 3 students, which is very close to now one and done, right? Now, what if we had them take a couple extra years or maybe a CTE plus program, till they're 20 or something like that, where they're still experimenting, and experiencing, I should say, everything. And then they find out, okay, just like she said, I'm going to go get my bachelor's in this now. You're still relatively young, um, but you now have a motivation to do it, like you said. You also have a little bit more maturity. You're likely to have more time management skills because you're almost forced to grow up after a high school. And then we're just talking about traditional high school, right? Not we haven't even blown that up yet. Which I mean, you grab students for half the day, where they're having these opportunities. Um, I think it makes sense. Um, I think though that one of the things that Cindy said at the end is if you're an administrator, say yes to things, take these risks with your staff, take these risks with your students, make those students who have already gone through that CTE programming and understand where they are going. I mean, there's probably doctors and lawyers in there. I'm guessing, and succeeding. Let's get their stories out there as well, so we can break the. Well, my kid got a 34 on the ACT and has a 4.0, but has no understandable skill sets that they can understand themselves. They probably have skill sets, but they don't have them. Like that's the switch right here. And I thought Cindy really brought that to the forefront.
Totally. And then I'm also thinking about, you know, if it had been pitched differently, like CT, like I'm even thinking, man, when I was in high school, if someone had been like, look, you can go do this auto mechanic, internship and whatnot and learn how to change oil and filters and all this stuff. If somebody had been like, you will save tens of thousands of dollars over the course of your life because you will know how to maintain your vehicle. I mean, like, right? Or people don't know how to cook. And so like you go to you like become a certified chef, type, you get that kind of technical school. So you know how to cook for yourself, so you don't need to eat out.
Mhm.
Well, we need to eat for the rest of our lives. Like, I mean, why not? And then like a restaurant is a very dynamic in the weeds is I love Cindy's phrase, dynamic and in the weeds,
Yep.
hands-on CTE. I'm thinking like, man, if people had marketed and talked about that kind of CTE, I would have been so drawn to it because
Hmm.
even though I was good at school, it was easy. Like I mean, it was a little boring at times just because it was like, it was a game that I was good at. And like, uh, and for even those like more intellectual types, there's so much benefit in like doing stuff with your hands and you probably enjoy it. I mean,
Hmm.
you think about these very talented doctors, lawyers, what any kind of person at the top of their field, they usually have other hobbies or other hidden talents that they've kind of developed because it's
Hmm.
just their personality. But that could have been more developed in the school system rather than just the quote unquote traditional model. So there's just so many benefits that as Cindy was talking, I'm thinking like, yes, 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 these are so good. And they're not, the framing that she had is so different than we've talked about CT plenty of times on the
Hmm.
podcast, and there's so many great programs, but her lens of and passion is like we need more Cindy's in the world to kind of get people excited about CT and how it is not in that black and white color hard trait. It's like it's not black and white,
Hmm.
it's in color now. Like it's not
Right.
like how it used to be, and it's playing catch up. Like
Hmm.
it's playing catch up. You know this, you're in that area, you're in the business area. And so it's so exciting to think about like, oh, summertime, what could I be doing to like gain skills? I don't know. That's where my brain was
Yeah.
at.
Well, I'm gonna two things. Like, I think going back to what you were saying about, like, the clarity that we can give students, younger students, and most importantly, I think one of the biggest things that he hit on was confidence, right? I'm sure I mentioned this before, but I was part of some college study. Somebody was doing a doctorate somewhere, and they were interviewing me. I think they interviewed me 3 or 4 times. I did it because I gave you $100 to interview you. So I'm like, yeah. But they constantly asked me, and I wish I had the report. I have no idea where it was published, but they asked me several times, like through my high school career, what are you interested in? What are you interested in? I remember I was just like grabbing things. I was like, I have no idea, right? And that messaging and that whole experience for me kept coming up while Cindy was talking. I'm like, what if, what if, what if, right? So like building that confidence of, knowing what my skills are or who I am, and that actually can bleed into your academics, right? Instead of going to college and then somebody showing you why, you have this in stats class when you were just like, every day just practicing stats for the test. Why don't we do it the other way, right? Like, why don't we practice with experience? And I really do think this is the future of education. I mean, I have an opportunity that, I'm going to be moving to another school, and I'm super excited about it because I get to, in the summertime, like they set aside time to go out into the community and have these conversations, which, yes, I think that's what needs to happen. And not just in the summertime, like during the school year, they're setting aside time for coordinators, which is a position that I'm going to be in, to really talk to people and to really start building this together, like true community, building curriculum, understanding, okay, what are the skills, but then, let's reflect on each person in an industry, just like Cindy was talking about, what what was your path and what would you have changed while you were in school to help you? And guess what? Let's go change it. Like, let's experiment and have some of this stuff happen. I think this is a very exciting time in the summertime in general. Like, so, I mean, going out as an educator, right? If you're going to go out and grab dinner or go to the beach or whatever, or travel, talk to a couple of people in positions, the flight attendant, talk to somebody who's working, at the beach bar, talk to somebody who is, owning the restaurant or fixing your car or whatever, and ask them a little bit, just a couple of questions, I'm always curious like this. I'm like, what made you want to do this, right? And then what was your path? And then if you were in high school, what would have been changed? Those little things are things that, like Cindy said, and we've said before, we can control. And I think that's even on a vacation, you ask somebody about it, it takes 5 minutes, get a little information. I mean, that's still crushing it, of course, according to Robert Peppo, right? Like you're constantly thinking, okay, maybe I can get something here, right? If you need to shut down a couple of weeks, that's cool. But I'm just saying, like, always think that in your mind, like, how did this person get there? Because we're in the people business.
We are. And I wrote this down when I was listening to Cindy talk. I was like, Cindy is a confidence coach. Like
Hmm.
that might not be her title, but that is what she's building into the students that go through her program.
Hmm.
And I think the same thing is with Robert Peppo is in order to be at the level of success that he's at, he's not doing it by himself,
Hmm.
and he is instilling confidence in the team that he is building to put out the best product day in and day out. And like you get that confidence through experience, not from reading about it in a textbook. And it like, so when I think about CTE at its core, I think about it's taking the classroom and giving students the confidence to do things that seem untouchable from a textbook vantage point. And it's showing that no matter, how good you did in your algebra class, you can do algebra in the real world, or, you can understand reading and writing when you're passionate about what you're learning about. And like, maybe it wasn't Romeo and Juliet. I don't know.
Wasn't for
But
me.
it wasn't for you, but it the technical articles maybe that's what lights you up. Maybe it doesn't, but even if it doesn't, the benefit of the CT route is it still helps you.
Right.
Right? And it's not saying the traditional model, like me and you have been in and are in the traditional setting. So we get it. We like understand the system. We just think that there's more. And
Mhm.
education has such a wide open landscape to explore. It doesn't need to be all these standards. And, I mean, Cindy talked about how the standards still have to be met in CTE. So it's like, it just doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going to tell you the standard. You're going to write it down in your notebook, and then I'm going to quiz you on it in a couple days. Again, it doesn't have to be that. It can
Mhm.
be actually doing the algebra problem on a car motor, something. I
Right.
I don't know, right? Calculating your energy bill in your home.
Mhm.
This something.
My favorite algebra test for students is they're like, oh, I'm terrible at algebra and terrible at math. And I'm like, well, let me tell you this. I'm going to give you a $5 bill and you're going to give me a $10 bill. Does that sound fair? And they're like, no. I'm like, you just did algebra. Wait, what? Like I love that. I use that a lot, by the way, but it does build that little bit of confidence, like get them thinking maybe I do know this. It's just, um, but kind of what you said there, just giving these kids these opportunities. Um, and Cindy said it as well. When you do find something that you may not want to do, let's say Allie in high school got to find out that maybe you didn't want to go down a dentist route in high school, but you still got the skills and you keep those skills. So number one, I think that's a win on the pocketbook because now you're not going to waste time and money and those types of assets on something that you really don't want to do. And then number two, you win regardless, you now have a better understanding of what that is in dentistry or whatever, right? So I think Cindy said that very well, where, you know, when you find out what you don't want to do, that's just as strong as finding out what you want to do. It just eliminates one more thing, but you can still learn a little bit about it and learn the skill set. So you have some sort of knowledge about it. So I just think it was a great conversation. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, which I challenged people to listen to it twice during the podcast, you have to listen to it for a third time now. So, but there's so many great pieces of that as we go into summer, right? We're hoping to constantly like just get you passionate again, whether you're an educator, a parent, a student of any age. Just learn about everything that's going on around you. You're outside the sandbox if you're on break. But it's fun to learn outside the sandbox. It really is. And to just crush it and really take some notes along the way. That would be my final thought. What's your final thought?
Uh, my final thought is along the same vein about when you find something that you're passionate about, the learning and wanting to be at like the top of your game comes so naturally. Like you can't
Mhm.
get enough of it. And so that's what we're really trying to encourage listeners for this summer is like if you're feeling like, oh, all I need to do is take a break and rest and relax and I have nothing to pursue, that may be a sign that like you need to have more conversations or connections to kind of reignite the spark. And in order to crush it and be relentless in your pursuit, it definitely starts with you realizing like what you're curious about and what like you can wake up and like want to get out there and do it, no matter whether it's your on season, off season. You're literally relentless in your pursuit. And so we've had two guests already that are showcasing and like talking the talk, walking the walk. You can follow them on social media.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's the off time that you really can use to move the needle forward. So it's like such an opportunity. The summer is such an opportunity for educators and anybody in the educational system to like make the leaps and bounds in the busy time by doing the preparation and planning now.
And make it fun. I mean, it really is fun. And I think the last thing that I kind of bounce off that is what Cindy said, like control what you can control. You're not going to be able to, you can complain all day about the things you can't control. It's just not going to do anything. And honestly, it'll make your life better if you just control the things you can control. And that's go into the next I guess it would be fall and make things happen. But enjoy the time outside the sandbox. We got some more great guests coming up. Just, well, like Robert Peppo said, crushing it this summer. Hopefully you're finding some inspiration to keep going, to do some amazing things. We do have amazing jobs as educators, inside school, outside of school, wherever you are. Allie does it, 10,000 feet in a plane and pushes people out. It's education. So, but until next time, I want to thank everybody for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hey, share this out, man. If you know there's somebody who's struggling in education, a student, a parent, an educator, an administrator, send them this podcast. Hopefully we're giving you guys some good ideas and disrupting education, because that's what it's all about. Till next time, we'll see you later. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Disrupt Education Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Are you ready to disrupt the educational arena you're a part of? For more ways to get involved in the work we do here at Disrupt Education, check us out at disrupteducation.co or find us on LinkedIn at Peter Hostrasser or Allie Privet.
Our mission here is to help facilitate and amplify changes in the educational system through local initiatives and help you scale them into community movements. Our building network of disruptors in education are working to move beyond scores and grades as the only measure for student learning. If your school district, college, campus, or organization is looking for facilitators of this work, reach out on our website or social media.
And if you have any thoughts or feedback on this week's episode or any episode, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, taking risks, and most importantly, disrupting education.